Hey everyone, welcome to this week's live chat. This is an Ask Me Anything type show. My name is Bryan Barron. I'm the Director of Skincare Research for Paula's Choice Skincare in good old Seattle, USA. And it is March 10th. I had to double check down there. Where has this year gone already? I don't know. Although, in some ways, it seems to be dragging on because of what's going on in the world. But in other ways, I think speaking for those of us at Paula's Choice, specifically those that I have that I work directly with, I think so many of us are just like nose down, at our computers and reading and having meetings during the day that it's no wonder the weeks are whizzing by. Looking forward to a few things. We've got a couple of exciting product launches coming up. I shall say no more than that. And tomorrow, Desiree and I, some of you may know Desiree Stordahl. She is the Senior Education Manager, a member of the content team, all-around wonderful person. You may have gotten to know her a little bit better on our Paula's Choice Instagram page, because she would do those the Q&As and live chat, the version of live chat that we run on Instagram. Not as many people visit our YouTube page, but the ones that do, you guys are dedicated. So that's why I'm here talking to you every 2 weeks. But Desiree and I are going to be joining the Clubhouse gang. If you're familiar with that social media app, we will be on Clubhouse. It's an app you can download for your phone or digital device. And we're on tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be discussing our favorite skincare ingredients and also inviting anyone who joins us to do what's called in the Clubhouse lingo, take the stage. And you can share your feedback with us. You can ask us questions. You can talk about which ingredients you really like, which ones you have found are really working well for you, and in what combination. We would love to hear that. We would love to have you come join us. Follow us, the Paula's Choice team on Clubhouse. It's a new experience for us, and definitely a different experience than some of the other social media apps or social media platforms that we participate in. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can do on Clubhouse and engaging with you in yet another way. So check us out. Also wanted to mention that we currently have a 15% off sale going on site-wide. So if there is a Paula's Choice product you've been thinking about trying and you're like, oh, it's just a little bit beyond my budget right now, well, maybe that 15% off is going to help help you make up your mind. Add that to the cart, or stock up on some of your favorite tried and true Paula's Choice products. It has been a roller coaster ride this last year in more ways than one. But the good news for all of you who currently love Paula's Choice, and I am thrilled and flattered and humbled to say that number increases by the hour, it seems. We are doing phenomenally well, and it is so amazing. Speaking from someone who is coming up on 21 years with this company, to see the level of success that we've achieved, to see the number of people around the world that our products and our information and all of that uniqueness that makes Paula's Choice what it is, not only to us, but more importantly to you guys, to see all of that come to fruition and reach more people than ever, and to hear the feedback, both good and bad, and to have gone through the growing pains that got us from where we were 21 years ago to today. And mind you, I am far from the only one who has been participating in this. It absolutely, in Paula's words, takes a village. And I think we really have a pretty kick-ass village, if I do say so myself. So some good stuff there, and some of you may have noticed that we made our debut on Sephora.com earlier this month, and that has been a resounding success. I'm not directly involved in the communication we have an entirely separate team for that that interfaces with the people at Sephora and they're the brick and mortar retail side of our business, and they're phenomenal. But from everything I've heard, working with Sephora has been a wonderful experience, and it's been very well received. I believe next month, a smaller, more curated, so I think there's about 35 or so of our products on Sephora.com right now that were handpicked by the team at Sephora with input from us. Obviously, you're going to find some of your favorites there, of course, like Skin Perfecting 2% BHA liquid, several of our boosters, some of our retinol products. I don't think all of them are there, but some of them are there. And then 6 or 7 individual products will roll out to all of the brick and mortar stores in the United States next month, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going from memory from the last thing I read about that. There may have been some changes, so please don't hold me to that. If you've heard differently from our client services team or somebody at Sephora, my bad. I'll own that, but I'm giving you the most current information as I recall it. So let's see what is on your mind. If anyone watching is wondering or noticing that my skin looks a little bit smoother than normal, I did do my shine stopper right before, which I always do because the lights I have to use, like the tiniest bit of oil, just make me look like a grease ball. I did our Skin Perfecting 25% AHA, 2% BHA peel this morning and left it on. I know you're supposed to leave it on for 10 minutes and then rinse it off. I probably kept it on for 15 minutes because it just doesn't bother my skin in the slightest. And then I hopped into the shower, rinsed it off, and what a shock. I take really good care of my skin, and I use 99% of my products are from Paula's Choice. Really the only regular skincare product I use that is not from Paula's Choice is my beloved SkinCeuticals Physical Fusion Sunscreen, SPF 50. And for those of you who haven't heard this story before and are sitting there thinking, well, why is that? Why not use a Paula's Choice sunscreen? Don't you guys have good sunscreens? Of course we do. Sunscreen, as I've said many times before, you have to love the one that you're using. You want to look forward to applying it. I have found personally that my skin does best with a mineral-based sunscreen, either titanium dioxide, but I prefer a blend of titanium and zinc oxide. Your mileage may vary. They're both good together, and they both have efficacy on their own. The SkinCeuticals one is a blend of both of the mineral actives, and it has a tint so that it doesn't make me look ghostly pale. Nature did enough of that. I don't need help. So I like the tint that it has. I find that it's tricky for someone as fair as with my fair skin, trying to find a tinted sunscreen that isn't going to make me look orange or too yellow has been a challenge. And the reason I can't use our Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense is because the tint on that one is just ever so slightly orange peachy, I would say, on me. We definitely have customers that use that product whose skin tone is similar to mine, and they love it. So it's experimentation, but that's why I don't use a sunscreen from Paula's Choice. And the tinted ones can be tricky, period. More so for people on the lighter end of the skin color spectrum and on the, I would say, medium dark to dark end of the skin color spectrum, because on darker complexions, that tint, depending on what pigments were used, how much of it was used, even though someone of color isn't going to see a white cast, the tint isn't going to look too white or gray or ashen, as some people say, it may not have enough depth to make their skin tone look natural, because really the goal is not to add color per se. It's not makeup. You just want enough of a tint so that the mineral actives don't make you look washed out. Long explanation there. So we shall dive into your questions. My peel story though, I decided to use it this morning, and I was just like, oh my god, my skin is so smooth. I mean, I know we're not supposed to be touching our face per CDC recommendations, but I'm just like, damn, this stuff is good. And to get, I've had professional peels before, you know, in office, using higher concentrations than what is in that product, but I love how comfortable that product is, and it's something that I can use. I would say I'm probably on an every 10-day usage pattern, but you can use it once per week in place of your regular AHA or BHA exfoliant. So if you haven't tried it yet, it's back. It's awesome. It has near universal 5-star reviews, which again, I know I've mentioned this on past chats, but that just shocked me because this is a fairly potent product. And our panel testing, which we do pre-market panel testing, revealed a very low potential for irritation, which is reassuring. But when you put something out into the world and it's available to for everyone to purchase and try for themselves, there's always going to be variables, that are beyond our control that will impact how a certain product works on someone's skin. And so I'm thrilled again to see so many 5-star reviews, and people that is just a annoying speck. People just really loving this product. It took quite a bit of doing on our part, and I know we weren't the first to market with this type of a rinse off peel product, something a bit stronger than what most people would use daily. Certainly stronger than what most people would need daily. But we wanted to take our time and do the best possible job that we could, not only for performance, but also for application, rinsability, just everything about that product. We really took the extra time to make sure that it was as good as we could possibly get it before we launched it. And I'm glad to see that is working out, and that everyone, nearly everyone, has really embraced this product and has had a great experience with it. So let's start things off with a question from Miss Katie. She says, regarding retinol, while using one of the PC retinols consistently, can you net similar results as using Tretinoin topically, such as we have our 0.3% retinol, 2% Boccuccio, or the 1% retinol booster versus Tretinoin at 0.025%. For those of you who don't know or may not be sure, Tretinoin is the prescription retinoid that first debuted as Retin-A. Later on in the early 90s, another version of it called Renova, which was approved for periorbital lines, came into popularity. Those are both the original Retin-A and Renova were Johnson & Johnson products. Tretinoin is now available generically and from other companies beyond J&J. In fact, I don't even know if you can still... Yeah, you can get Retin-A, the brand name. I think Retin-A Micro is still available. The Micro is just a delivery system. I think it's a micro sponge type technology that's a slower delivery system for the Tretinoin. So from the information I've seen, Tretinoin is essentially 20 times more potent than retinol. Tretinoin essentially goes into the skin, and it very quickly becomes all trans-retinoic acid, which is the version that skin can put to use. That really is the active form, that is what happens to retinol eventually via enzymatic conversion as it penetrates into the skin. So retinol is about 20 times less potent than Tretinoin, but when you increase the percentage of retinol and you take into account that potency difference, using more retinol versus like 0.025% or 0.01% Tretinoin, which I believe are the two most common percentages available by prescription, you can get closer to that equivalency. However, and the good news about that, really good news I think for most of us, is that retinol is significantly less likely to cause an irritant response than Tretinoin. A lot of people, I'm one of them, can't use prescription retinoids in that class. There are other classes such as adapalene, which is different, that I'm able to use. At least I was way back when. It worked wonders for my acne and didn't tear up my skin the way Tretinoin did. Again, this was years ago. But retinol, I think you can get very close. I haven't seen equivalency studies looking at those percentages that you mentioned, and we haven't done comparative tests, Katie, behind the scenes. But there is, for certain, there is research on the specific percentages of retinol that we use in our products and the various areas in skin that they interact with, and the positive results that they have. The term most often used in the research is photo damage, which is essentially a fancy way of saying sun damage, and that covers really any visible change that you see to your skin as a result of cumulative sun damage. So uneven skin tone, loss of firmness, of course, fine lines, wrinkles, certain types of discolorations. Retinol and the prescription forms as well definitely play a role in helping to reduce hyperpigmentation. And they come up in the literature for that concern, as well as offshoots of it, such as melasma, quite a bit. But do I think that retinol alone is all that somebody with hyperpigmentation would need? No. There's absolutely make it part of your armamentarium, so to speak, but you'll want to use it with other proven ingredients that can tackle excess melanin production within the skin and on skin surface. The many ways in which that can be triggered, in which that process works, require more than one ingredient to go after those different pathways, whether it's inhibiting the enzyme that causes excess melanin production, whether it is impacting the transfer of melanin to the upper layers of skin where it becomes visible as a dark spot. The more such ingredients like that you can use when you have hyperpigmentation, the better. This turned into a long discussion about hyperpigmentation, but Katie, I think you get my point. It's really more, I think it's honest and fair to say that with prescription versions at any strength, you will see results faster. However, the trade-off is going to be a much greater likelihood of side effects such as discomfort, redness, flaking, peeling. Not everybody experiences that with prescription retinoids, and for many people who do, it is fleeting. It's a hump they have to get over, and then one day they realize, wow, this stuff is really working well for my skin, and woohoo, no more flaking, no more discomfort. Maybe I'm a little red, in certain areas. Maybe I shouldn't apply it as much as I do. That type of thing. You'd have to evaluate that on a case-by-case basis and then figure out how to adjust your routine. But speaking as someone who used Tretinoin in my teens and early 20s and who graduated to retinol products of various strengths over the years since, and to this day, I wouldn't go back to prescription retinoids. I think the results I get from the retinol products that we have within our line, there are others on the market as well. I just don't see the point. I think I'm getting good enough results with retinol, and my skin is acclimated to it really well that I just don't want to chance it with a prescription version. I'd have to see some really compelling studies to do that. Okay, and then Adam had a couple of questions. Hi, Brian. Hope you're well. I have mild rosacea and use your azelaic acid booster twice a day, which is a lifesaver. Good to hear. I struggle to tolerate AHA or BHA products, even the 1%, which is our BHA exfoliant in our Calm line. I can only use once a week. Do you think I will get an acceptable level of exfoliation with the booster alone? I can tolerate the retinol Boccuccio product daily, but just not AHA or BHA. Should I just have... I mean, Adam, I think you've tried our lower strength pH correct exfoliant, the 1% BHA. I don't know which of our AHAs you've tried. If you haven't tried the daily smoothing treatment from Resist, that has 5% AHA, glycolic acid, and 0.5% salicylic acid in a pH correct range. I believe the pH of that is 3.8. Generally, AHAs and BHAs work best for exfoliation when the product they're in is formulated between a pH 3 and 4. You can go lower than 3, but then you're tipping the scales and still get that efficacy, but you're tipping the scales in favor of irritation. A pH below 3, it can be exponentially more irritating to skin the closer the closer you get to a 1, because remember the pH is acid versus base, so the higher numbers are your bases or your alkaline. 7 is neutral. Anything below pH 7 is considered acidic. Our skin is naturally acidic with a pH, depending on whose research you're citing, between about 4.5 and 5.5. That's the range I see reproduced most often, but clearly on the acidic side. I'm happy that you're able to use the Boccuccio retinol product. You may also want to consider, if you haven't tried it yet, just for fun, do a patch test if you're worried about a reaction on your face. Patch test it here, like on the neck. Polyhydroxy acid, such as like a 4% gluconolactone product. I believe the Exuviance by Neostrata brand sells such an exfoliant. Neutrogena just came out with some facial cleansers that have gluconolactone in them. I mean, I'm not going to bash their formulas at all. I haven't really seen them up close. I'm just aware of the marketing. My concern is that using a gentler acid, exfoliating acid in a cleanser, that the cleanser is not going to have enough time on your skin to do its job. And yes, you could leave the cleanser on for a few minutes, but then you're leaving those surfactants on the skin for longer than they should be on there, because even when you're dealing with a formula that has mild surfactants, like a blend of those, the longer they're on skin, the more likely they are to be drying and irritating. That's just the nature of surfactants. You know, it's that brief use where you're moving it around, you know, building up a lather, 30, 45 seconds and rinsing, that's no problem. So try polyhydroxy acid at about 4%. If you haven't tried the Resist Daily Smoothing Treatment, I'd be curious to see how that works for you. And we do offer a smaller size of that. And of course, our products come with a money-back guarantee. So if you ever do purchase something from us that you're not happy with, for whatever reason, feel free to send it back, and we'll take care of you. The King. Hey Brian, always a delight to see you speak. Have a question about hyaluronic acid. Is it true that when applied over something that it can push the ingredients further into the skin? For example, putting HA over niacinamide, pushing it more into the skin. It depends on the formula. It depends on the molecular weight of the hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid in its normal state is considered high molecular weight. It is above 500 Daltons. Anything below 500 Daltons, in terms of, with Dalton is just a weight measurement. So anything below 500 Daltons can penetrate past the uppermost layers of skin. Doesn't mean that it goes all the way down past the dermis, past the subcutaneous layer, which is the layer of fat, and then into the bloodstream, and within 30 minutes is in your digestive system, and so on and so forth. That's not what that means. Typically hyaluronic acid is talked about in terms of high molecular weight and low molecular weight, but even the low molecular weight hyaluronic acid isn't penetrating that far. What the low can do fairly efficiently that the higher type, which pretty much stays in the surface and attracts water from the environment and helps transport other ingredients in the uppermost layers of skin, hyaluronic acid does a lot. And I'm also counting the naturally occurring hyaluronic acid that is part of our skin's intercellular matrix. I mean, it does a lot. Including helping to reduce inflammation and working as an antioxidant. Who knew, right? Where was I going with that? Oh, the low molecular weight hyaluronic acid is about anywhere from 150 to 600 Daltons in weight. And typically when that is used in formulas, such as the case with our hyaluronic acid booster, for example, we're using several different weights of that in just because of how it's broken down in one molecule, so to speak. So you're getting that range, and so you're getting what I would refer to as multi-level penetration. Now, whether or not that is going to carry other ingredients like niacinamide into the skin, the formula can be manipulated to do that to a certain degree. Generally, though, a water-soluble ingredient like niacinamide is going to go where it needs to go without necessarily needing any help from other ingredients. Where I think hyaluronic acid's penetration ability can help is that the lower molecular weight form is fairly efficient at stimulating aspects of skin to make more of its own hyaluronic acid and to also help the normal skin cell migration. That's something that happens when hyaluronic acid is present at normal levels in our skin, right? With age, just the passage of time, and cumulative sun damage, you guessed it, those natural levels of hyaluronic acid start to dip. And the hyaluronic acid processes in skin that would normally just do their thing, they start to become faulty or less efficient, let's say. So adding that and getting that hyaluronic acid in the form of a low molecular weight a bit further into the skin where it can really have better signaling ability, I kind of liken it to, let's say that you are shouting to somebody who's across the street, but you're standing across the street in Midtown Manhattan. You've got traffic. You've got, car horns honking. You have other people's, you have brakes squeaking. There's all kinds of noise around you. And you're trying to shout to somebody to send them a message across the street, right? Now picture doing that same thing at about 50% reduction in ambient noise. Which of those two scenarios is the person across the street going to be more likely to hear very clearly, or as clearly as possible, everything you're saying? It's obvious. That is, in essence, how that lower molecular weight hyaluronic acid helps to signal skin in a more efficient manner to help the natural hyaluronic acid in the skin to help those levels increase, and then to help that hyaluronic acid work within skin the way it's supposed to. One more reason that we consider hyaluronic acid a cell communicating ingredient. Okay. Paul says, hi Brian, is 25% peeling gel coming soon in Europe? Also, are any new AHA products coming in the near future? I'd love to see higher than 10% glycolic moisturizer from you. Thank you for the feedback, Paul. At this point, in the near future, no more AHA products. That's not to say that there aren't any in the works. That's not to say you'll never see an AHA from us again. So do keep the suggestions coming. I know that the Skin Perfecting Rinse Off Peel, that's the 25% AHA, 2% BHA formula, it is being looked at for the European market, but last I heard it had not been officially given the green light. But they are trying. So I can't say for certain at this point if they're going to be able to retail it. And it may be, I don't know this 100%, but it could turn out that we're able to offer that for Paula's Choice UK, but not Paula's Choice EU, because now that the UK is no longer part of the EU, they will have different cosmetic regulations. Not everything has been ironed out yet, but we may, in the end, they may decide to stick with the current status quo of EU regulations for cosmetics, because that's what a lot of consumers over there are used to, and it's generally well-regarded system. Or they may decide to go off on their own and say, we're not following this anymore, or we're going to take this but not that. So that remains to be seen, but it's feasible in the future that some skincare items that are unable to be sold throughout the European Union may be freely available in the United Kingdom. We will have to wait and see. Okay, let's see, who's next? Annie, hi Brian, for my blackheads, I'm using the BHA 9. Is it preferable to use it day or night? Any other tips when using this product, like frequency? It's, with the BHA 9, I kind of call that the use as needed product. However, I definitely acknowledge that there are people that need that product more often based on the stubbornness of their concerns. And some people, for unknown reasons, or at least reasons that aren't entirely clear, have very stubborn or more deeply rooted blackheads. And that is where BHA9 can help. I wouldn't say it's a cure-all for that, because in some cases you'll just need to go see an esthetician who is known for and very familiar with extractions. Believe me, there's a right and a wrong way to do those. And generally you'll know it's the wrong way because the person that's doing it is using too much pressure. It becomes a painful experience. Sometimes with stubborn blackheads, you just have to have them manually extracted. And try not to look, if you can help it, while that's going on, because sometimes what comes out of the pore can be pretty gross. I'm not going to lie. And then you use BHA9 once a week, maybe once every few days. I think once a day is fine as a maintenance step to keep those blackheads from taking root deeper in the pore lining. Really keep that pore lining as clear as possible. Based on the texture of that product, I feel that it is best used at night. It isn't necessarily the kind of texture that layers well with several other products, but more specifically for the daytime, if you are going to be wearing makeup and you apply, liquid foundation, a powder foundation, a BB or CC cream, I just don't think, because of the base that's in, which was necessary to solubilize and keep that level of salicylic acid suspended and stable, the alternative would have been using a heck of a lot of the drying kind of alcohol, which we just do not do as a brand. I think that nighttime application is preferable to daytime use, unless during the day you have a good 10-15 minutes to let that really sink in, and make sure that you apply a very thin layer. All right, Danielle. Hi, Brian. Can applying retinoids like Tretinoin during weight loss help with skin laxity? Not from any research that I've seen, Daniel. I mean, if you're looking at losing a large amount of weight, say 100 pounds or more, and if you have been, this is not my area of expertise, but I'm going on some of the things that I have read and heard from doctors who deal with people trying to lose a large amount of weight and do so in a safe manner. If you have been overweight by, say, 100 pounds or more for an extended period of time, chances are good that, and you're let's just say not a spring chicken anymore. Chances are good that you're going to have some residual sagging because of how the skin became distended to accommodate the extra weight, and then that once that extra weight goes away, it's not like skin just snaps back to normal. So it isn't unusual after a large amount of weight loss to have some type of cosmetic surgery to literally excise some of that excess skin and redrape it, for lack of a better description. So think of like your tummy tucks, think of your, I think they're called a boccuccio, Boccuccio, where they do the, when you have the sagging upper arms, some people refer to them as bat wings. But it basically just looks like kind of a sagging muscle, but it's flabby, it's excess skin, and that can be taken care of surgically, as well as can the thighs. The cryolipolysis type treatments like cool sculpting and similar, that is something to talk to a cosmetic dermatologist about, depending on the extent of your weight loss and the extent of the sagging. You might get a little bit of extra fat removal. Well, you'll definitely get fat removal from the freezing process, but that might help to some extent with a little bit of tightening. There are also different non-surgical procedures, different types of ultrasound, ultherapy type procedures that may also prove helpful for minor cases of that, as I understand it. But using tretinoin or retinol, reason I say that is because in cases like that, I suspect what happens after the skin is stretched for an extended period is that you have some damaged and or broken elastin fibers. And once those elastin fibers are stretched to the breaking point, they pretty much don't go back together again. And even if you can get some baby elastin stimulation, what's known as tropoelastin, if that tropoelastin isn't maturing into fully formed and functional elastin, you're not going to get the results you want. So I wouldn't necessarily, I would put that option further down the list compared with the other options that I discussed, especially if the sagging from the weight loss, losing a great amount of weight is significant. I wouldn't, it's almost like bypass the topicals, go talk to a cosmetic surgeon and a cosmetic dermatologist about your non-invasive, meaning non-surgical and surgical options, and determine what is best for you at this point, and then what you can work into your budget. Paula is asking, can I jump from the Resist Barrier Repair Moisturizer with retinol to the 1% retinol treatment, or should I try the 0.3% retinol with 2% Boccuccio first? It depends on, there isn't a do this then that type answer. A lot of people find that stepping up their retinol works best for them, but then we have people who've never used retinol before that try our 1% in the clinical 1% retinol treatment, and they love it, and they get great results, and there's no side effects whatsoever. Side effects would be local irritation, perhaps some redness or flaking. Skin may look or feel a little dehydrated. And then for the majority of people, they get past that, and then they really start seeing all the cool stuff 1% retinol can do. The addition of the 2% Boccuccio to the 0.3% retinol essentially helps to bring the efficacy of that product almost up to what you can get from 1% retinol. And that's not because Boccuccio works exactly like retinol and it's this wonderful plant-based alternative to retinol. It's no more an alternative to retinol than an orange is an alternative to an apple, or an orange is an alternative to an onion. Both have benefit, but they work in different ways. Boccuccio does influence some of the same areas in skin that retinol does, and as a result of that, you will see similar results in terms of wrinkles, skin tone, discoloration than you would with retinol. I didn't mean that to sound so confusing. And I do think because of Boccuccio's anti-inflammatory action, and it is the prevailing theory in terms of Boccuccio helping to reduce breakouts is that it has some sort of stabilizing impact on the microbiome. So one of the things that there's more and more research going on in the area of our skin and our gut microbiome and who does and doesn't get acne. Because one of the mysteries around acne for quite some time, researchers have known that pretty much everybody has the acne-causing strain of bacteria on their skin. It used to be called P. acnes or propionic bacterium, propionic acid bacterium. It's been a while. And then it was reclassified as Cutibacterium or C. acnes. So what they have discovered, though, is that there are subtypes of this acne-causing bacteria. Some of them are of a more inflammatory nature. Some of them are not. They're just kind of neutral. They're just part of skin's commensal microflora, which is bacteria, fungi, and yes, even viruses. Viruses are with us all the time. And our immune system developed right along with them, both in the body and on the skin. But I digress. So it's interesting to see that what they suspect is people, because acne is an inflammatory disorder, when the skin microbiome's population of C. acnes is out of balance and there's too much of the inflammatory type of C. acnes, that sets the stage for various types of acne. And there appears to be an interrelationship with the microbiome of the gut, and that can be influenced by some things that we eat, which may feed further into the connection between diet and acne. So it's just fascinating. I could probably do a whole topic on that, but in order to do that, I would really want to get all my ducks in a row, and so I can make sure that I'm giving you guys the most current information as clearly as possible. Right now, I'm going off of memory from what I've read in recent studies. And I'm not even quite sure why I went down that road, but you were asking about, Paula was asking about jumping up to the retinol. Why did I go down that road? What is going on? Huh. If it were me, Boccuccio. I know, Boccuccio is linked to acne. So it seems that Boccuccio may have a stabilizing effect on skin's microbiome and may play a role in helping to bring that population of C. acnes bacteria into that proper balance, so that instead of having it disproportionately be the inflammatory inciting kind, it's the more neutral, hey, I'm just hanging out here, nothing to see kind. So, to answer your question, if it were me and I was dealing with signs of aging and breakouts or clogged pores, I would go for the clinical 0.3% retinol and 2% Boccuccio. If clogged pores and breakouts aren't a concern of yours, I would go for the clinical 1% retinol, and I would be sure to follow the usage instructions as you get acclimated to it, because we do not recommend you just jump into that and start applying it, once daily. You want to just start slower with that, even though your skin is acclimated to retinol from the Barrier Repair Moisturizer, and then take it from there. See how it goes. If you decide to go with the clinical 1%, and after a few times using it, you're like, ooh, I think this might be a little bit too much for me, and then you scale back and it still seems a little bit too much, you can exchange it. Even absent of that, if there's other things that you don't like about it, maybe you won't like the texture, maybe it won't work as well with some of your other products, you can try the clinical 0.3% retinol, although that does have a similar texture. So back up. If the texture is why you don't like the product, I would direct you towards our 1% retinol booster, which has a very different texture than the clinical. Got that? I know it's confusing. Liz says hi. 6-star review. I'm assuming that's about the peel. Poppy Flower says, Brian, hello, nice to see you, and wanted to ask about fermented ingredients and their positive impact on skin, and also I'm interested in honey and propolis. Greetings from Slovenia. So fermented ingredients are of interest because of the two things that I have seen come up the most are their influence on the microbiome, which we were just talking about a moment ago, and as a subset of that, the fact that some fermented ingredients function as postbiotics on skin, which are ingredients that the probiotics naturally present in skin break down to eventually, and postbiotics like lactic acid and various peptides can help the skin do a lot of the things it needs to do to maintain orderliness and health. So I like fermented ingredients from that regard. It's a big group of ingredients. The kind that you'll see the most are going to be your yeast ferments, rice ferment. It's typically what I'm seeing more of are fermented plants. The hyaluronic acid that we use in our products is obtained via biofermentation, which is a way to create hyaluronic acid that can be considered vegan because it is not derived from an animal. A common source of hyaluronic acid years ago, I don't know for sure if some brands are still using this source or not, but rooster combs. So they would get it from I'm wondering if it's accurate to call that part like the feather or the frill on a rooster, or if it's like a keratinous substance. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with that, but the point is it used to come from an animal, and Paula's Choice, I think, is one of many brands that obtains their hyaluronic acid via biofermentation in a lab. So you're basically getting nature identical hyaluronic acid without harming an animal. All right. And then the honey and propolis. Honey and propolis would both be prebiotic type ingredients. The honey in particular has some good anti-inflammatory properties, wound healing properties. It has hydrating properties. So yeah, I think honey is an interesting ingredient to look for in a skincare product. Probably more with an emphasis on skin calming products. And if it's Manuka honey has some compounds in it that what is the other kind of honey called? Like wild? Is it wild honey? Or multi? Manuka honey is a single varietal, and a lot of the wild honey that you would find like in a grocery store, for example, comes from multiple plants. Manuka honey has, I know it has a higher amount of a compound in it called glycoxyl, if I'm not mistaken, that is able to help neutralize or prevent the formation of harmful, I'll get this out, harmful biofilms in wounded skin. So when you have a cut or when your skin is damaged or abraded and the healing process begins, there is a period of time in the earlier stages of the wound where it is vulnerable to bacteria from the outside world that our skin is in contact with all the time. But when it's healthy and intact, it's really no big deal. But when there is some damage to the skin and that bacteria can take hold and proliferate, it can form what is called a biofilm. And when the bad bacteria do that, meaning that there isn't enough good bacteria on skin or around the site of the wound to help keep that bad bacteria in check, that biofilm can lead to slower wound healing or poor wound healing, meaning that what would have like knitted itself and healed very beautifully with minimal to no scar ends up leaving a rather apparent looking scar because the right steps and ingredients, so to speak, weren't in place for proper healing to happen. So your skin's like, well, I'm going to do the best I can, but no promises. So using ingredients that help to prevent the formation of those harmful biofilms can absolutely help in the realm of wound healing. It's typically done with an antibiotic type ointment and actually even a non-aqueous product like a pure petroleum jelly, because that keeps water out of the skin because of its occlusive nature. And those bad bacteria tend to thrive in a aqueous environment. They're much more likely to multiply in that type of environment. So even something as simple as Vaseline can help. And I have a feeling, I don't know this for 100% certainty, but I have a feeling that is why most of those triple antibiotic products, your Polysporin, your Neosporin, those are in non-aqueous petrolatum, petroleum jelly, bases, or even like a mineral oil base, or every now and then you might see a lanolin base, but lanolin tends to be allergenic in that situation when used in high amounts. So it is generally avoided. But yeah, I really have nothing bad to say about those ingredients, other than I think for most people who are just looking for a good, healthy skincare routine, you don't need to like laser focus on finding something with honey or propolis, or what was the other one you asked about? Fermented ingredients. They're one more beneficial option to look for. But for example, if you come across a line of fermented skincare, and there are some of them out there, make sure it has other good ingredients for skin too. Just like I wouldn't say to somebody, all you need are antioxidants. Just look for an antioxidant product and don't worry about the skin replenishing ingredients. Don't worry about the hydrating ingredients or the skin restoring ingredients. Just like your body needs an array of healthy foods and nutrients to function optimally, so does your skin. So we tend to get ourselves in trouble when we focus too much on one group of ingredients or one ingredient at the exclusion of others. So just keep that in mind as whenever a new trend or new ingredient hits and you're considering a product that utilizes that, always look to see, well, what else is with it? You know, because if it's just that ingredient, chances are you're selling your skin short. All right, okay, Sarnash, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Please forgive me. When do you think Paula's Choice will be available in India, as most of the Indian skincare products are pretty bad? We are available in India. Not fully, but we do have Paula's Choice India. I believe we are on Amazon India. But Paula, Paula and Desiree just did several media interviews. I believe it was last week with press in India. Not all, not all of our products are available in that part of the world, but a good proportion of them that through market research we have learned, and from people who literally live there on the ground talking to Indian women about what they want from their skincare. It was a specifically curated collection of our products to get things going. So check it out. Alexandra says, hi, can silicones give breakouts? Some people would say, yes, 100%. Every time I use a product with any kind of silicone, I break out. That's anecdotal. And it may or may not be because of the silicones. I haven't seen anything in the research showing that silicones of any kind, whether it's dimethicone, cyclopentasiloxane, a silicone polymer, there's several of them. The few I rattled off there are fairly common, along with cyclohexasiloxane. They are not occlusive. They do form a breathable barrier. The siloxane type silicones are what's called a volatile silicone, so they kind of have like a flash, not instantly, but they dry pretty quickly. And that volatility just settles into like a nice, smooth, nearly weightless finish. I have seen it posited that because of the nature of silicones and how they act on the surface of skin, they allow oil that would normally come to the surface and spread out to build up in the pore lining. I don't know if I buy that either, simply because of the fact that it is not a occlusive barrier. It's almost like Paula has explained it as being more like a tea bag effect, where you put the tea bag in and it steeps out into the hot water. It doesn't, the tea, so if the tea is the silicone, it's not all just staying in that tea bag. It is spreading out, it's diffusing, and it's doing that because there are holes. There's a transparency to the tea bag that allows that to happen when it is in contact with water. Perhaps oversimplifying things, but picture most of the silicone ingredients forming like a flexible mesh effect over your skin, and their molecular size is too large for particularly dimethicone to penetrate and get stuck in the pore. So I suspect, silicones have definitely become villain ingredients in certain circles and for certain brands. There's no research at all showing that they are harmful to skin. In fact, they're often used for wounds. Certain silicones, ointments and balms and whatnot are used in burn centers where skin, now that's compromised skin. So I suspect what happens in a lot of cases is that people are breaking out from one or more ingredients in the product. Thickeners, waxes, other emollients, even certain plant oils whose molecular size may be small enough to get into the pore lining and mix with skin zone sebum and get stuck. And that is what is causing the problem. But, because there's this high alert, so to speak, there's, I guess you could say, more of a a greater awareness of the association with, people say silicones break them out, and I heard this and I read that. So you look at your product and you're like, aha, there's that ingredient or ingredients I was told would break me out, and lo and behold, that's probably what it is. And we kind of focus on that to the exclusion of everything else in the product, when it could very well be that something else in the product is the culprit. So yes, there are anecdotal reports out there that people who use products with silicones experience breakouts, and then when they switch to silicone-free formulas, the breakouts don't happen. I'm not denying that, but I am telling you that I haven't seen any studies showing that or explaining how silicones could effectively block the pores and or trigger acne of any kind. It's just, if it's out there, if you know of some, if you've seen some, please share. I'm not, believe me, I'm not saying this to be the last word on the topic. I mean, science evolves. Maybe one day there will be a study showing certain silicones can do that under certain conditions and so on. And if that's the case, our answer to that question evolves with it. A couple more minutes left here. Let's see. What can you say about, this is from Imaginary MRC. What can you say about using retinoids regarding the Hayflick limit? Since retinoids increase the rate of cell division, they can cause skin cells to reach the Hayflick limit faster. I don't think that's how the Hayflick limit works. The Hayflick retinol affects how skin cells are formed and how they move through the layers of skin. I haven't seen anything regarding retinol use and speeding up the Hayflick limit, but I'm going to make a note of that just to double check. The question we're normally asked on the Hayflick limit, and the Hayflick limit, for those of you who don't know, is named after the scientist that discovered that skin cells, in fact, I think this was specific to skin cells, but I believe it applies to any cell in the body, has a finite number of times that it will divide. And once it reaches that point, the cell effectively dies off and is not, in some cases, it's not replaced. I suspect in some cases it is. It's been a while since I've taken a deeper dive into that, but we're typically asked about whether or not ongoing use of AHA or BHA exfoliants will impact that, because those products work to speed the removal of skin cells from the uppermost layers of skin. And so the concern is that doing so will cause those new cells below to come to the surface much faster than they normally would. Therefore, these cells are dividing at a much faster rate, and you're increasing the Hayflick limit, and eventually your exfoliants are going to cause that to happen much sooner than it normally would. That isn't true, though, because the AHA and BHA ingredients do not act on living cells. Retinol kind of does a mix, but again, I'm just not recalling. And if you have some studies that you want to come back and post in the comment section after this chat, I'll take a look at whatever you post. But I will also do some checking on my own and find out what the association is there. Annie0523 says, I've heard it's better to apply skincare products to wet skin. Is there any truth to that? Nope. Nope, not really. It's not going to help. I mean, water is a solvent, but the water that's on your skin, given that most skincare products are water-based, you're already putting water on your skin to help those ingredients penetrate. So I know I still see this in fashion magazines as a tip, like, moisturizing after your shower, or when those in-shower moisturizers first came on the market, you put it on before you got out of the shower. That it's best to apply it to damp skin to seal in moisture or seal in the water. And I that can help, to a certain degree, but look at the first ingredient in most body lotions or body creams, even a lot of body butters, and it's water. So you don't need to add that extra water to help those ingredients penetrate or be more effective. I don't necessarily think it's harmful, except in the case of a sunscreen, because you never want to do anything to dilute a sunscreen's effectiveness. But if you want to experiment with it just out of curiosity, it's with everything except a sunscreen, I don't think it's going to be harmful, and it won't throw off the pH of your AHA or BHA products if you're thinking about that. All right. Pink Angel asks, is the Weightless BHA or AHA body product better for KP, which is Keratosis Polaris, those raised red bumps that kind of show up on the upper arms, sometimes on the thighs? That's where I get KP, although it's been under control for a while because I use the Weightless body treatment with 2% BHA. Generally, because of BHA's lipid solubility, and it's better at penetrating into the pore lining where those clogs can really take root and have their genesis. People find that BHA works better, generally speaking. I've talked with enough people over the years, though, who have tried both, and I've heard from enough people that they got better results from AHA that I think it's worth experimenting with. But at this point, if you're new to either one for treating this concern, and you're thinking, well, which one do I start with? It's BHA. It's BHA all day. And then if you find that does not work for you, then you can try an AHA product, and the 10% option that we offer is great. We are out of time. Oh, you guys, lots of good questions. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back in a couple of weeks. We're doing 2 shows this month, so be sure to check me out 2 weeks from today, which would be the 24th, I believe. And I'll tell you all about my 10th anniversary trip, because it is my 10th wedding anniversary this month, and we're taking an extended weekend without the kid, and hopefully we'll have some decent weather where we're going. It's not a known sunny place, but anything could happen. So until then, take care. Keep those questions coming. Come back and leave some comments. Feel free to share research that you come across that you want me to comment on.